It's Too Close for Podcast, episode 49. We're talking about the 6th episode from Season 3, aired on November 4th, 1982. Yes, we're getting close to the end of the 1982 episodes and into the tail end of the last season to be shown on ABC. Tonight's episode, Do You Take This Woman Again? No comma. Not, do you take this woman, comma, again. It's just straight up, do you take this woman again?
With a question mark?
Yeah, another one of the...
Nice.
They like to use question marks at the end of these episode titles. About every third or fourth episode will have a question mark.
What's the Andrew? It's not called Look Who's Talking, is it?
The episode where we hear his thoughts?
Yeah.
That one's called A Thanksgiving Tale, and that one's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I just got excited because we were talking about it earlier. So, this week, Henry and Iris are in the kitchen when Iris reminds them that it's going to be the 26th wedding anniversary next week. And then they start to fight because Henry and Iris don't like each other. They're like dogs.
And we get all this nice laugh track under it. As I've said before, imagine this show without a laugh track. What a bitter, angry, mean program at points.
So Muriel enters and says the only thing she wants for her anniversary is to renew her wedding vows with Henry. And of course, Iris just makes mean comments the whole time because that's the kind of person she apparently is. But this time, Henry says, yeah, let's do it, but let's do it with family and friends, a small group, because apparently last time they eloped. Just then, the girls enter with their laundry to be washed by their mother. And a very small bit of laundry. What, are they coming over every 2 days with that laundry? I don't know.
This is special laundry.
It is, because Sarah says, please wash this cold only. The girls then volunteer to take care of the wedding plans. Just leave it to us. We'll take care of everything. So later on, Henry is getting excited about the wedding. And he's working on his drawings when the girls, Sarah and Jackie, show up with Monroe. And they start laying out what this wedding is now going to be. Because instead of 13 to 14 people, now there are 65 people coming to this wedding. And Monroe has moved the venue right to the Fairmount Hotel. Which apparently, if we all remember the episode with the piano, is right down the street, right down the hill. If you just take that hill straight down, you're going to be there. There's no other place you can be. If gravity has any meaning in this show. And then Henry learns that Iris has invited her neighbors in the condo she's just bought. And now he's really, he's had enough of this wedding. And he's going to call it off. Henry also realizes that he can't afford this wedding. So he's sick of this whole thing. It's too much for him. He just wanted a simple little thing with his friends and family. So he calls off this wedding and gets into another fight with Iris. And Muriel's...
A particularly harsh fight.
Iris is very cutting and mean, as she is. To the moon with you, Alice. This whole thing has upset Muriel. And she says, why don't we just get a divorce? Or something to that effect. That's Act 1. That was a long Act 1, I thought. So Muriel's just going to divorce him now. It's 2 days later now, and nobody has talked to Henry until he runs into the girls who are picking up what looks like the same laundry they dropped off 2 days ago. A very small pile of laundry.
Continuity.
That's how they linked it together. Henry's pretty depressed about this whole thing. Then he thinks he hears Muriel in the dark room. Remember, she's a photographer. A lot of people forget that. So he apologizes profusely through the door.
The classic moment.
As he's doing it, Muriel enters the kitchen behind him.
And he doesn't notice because the whole house is soundproof, apparently.
But then the door opens and it's Monroe, who's been working in the dark room on his film, developing his film. But he's very excited that he might be going to dinner with Henry because Henry said, I'll take you to dinner, whatever you want, to apologize for my behavior. And really, Monroe's been waiting to hear that for a long time, right? He's been trying so hard to help the whole family, even though, he brought that film crew in. Anyway.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
They had giraffes and everything else.
But Muriel hears the apology, and then she accepts the apology. And then they decide to elope to Tahoe, Lake Tahoe. That's Act 1, I think.
No, that's number 2.
Well, that's
remember?
Act 2.
So we had the incredibly long number 1.
I thought it was still the same long number 1 act.
2 blips by so fast, I can see how you would think that.
Now, Jackie, Sarah, Henry, Muriel, and the baby show up at the Justice of the Peace house. Peace's house. I don't know how to say that.
Reno, Nevada. Or Lake Tahoe.
And they're late. They're like 2 hours late. And me and Marty and I did the math. That means that it probably took them 5 hours to get there because we also learn at this point that Henry proposed at 6:30. So then they had to race to Tahoe.
Mm-hmm. And they probably got there, right before midnight, I'm guessing.
Like at least 5 hours, right?
Mm-hmm. If they were delayed 2 hours, and it takes 3 hours to make that drive clear across California.
It's like Fear and Loathing, basically.
If they would have had more of a budget, the whole road trip would have been its own episode. But we don't have scenes inside of vehicles on this show.
No, rarely. Sometimes we get I think we saw Monroe on his motorcycle.
Yeah, on the motorcycle.
But not like
inside a car? I don't know.
You're probably right. So the Justice of the Peace thinks that Jackie and Sarah are the couple looking to get married. Because they were in their bed. She was in bed with her chiropractor husband.
What was his name? Carl.
Was it Carl?
I think it was, right?
Let's go with Carl. Yeah, it might have been Carl. But of course, that would be crazy if Jackie and Sarah got married. Anyway, it's just a little bit. I shouldn't even have mentioned it.
Well, it did happen.
Yeah, but I like to let people discover all the little nuances themselves. Hopefully, they're all watching these episodes as they listen to these podcasts.
Yeah, we're like a commentary track.
Because otherwise,
Or
I'm
an
just
after
telling
show.
you, might as well just read the scripts. That might be fun too. If we could get copies of the scripts.
Mm-hmm. At GMR Podcast, if you know how to hook us up.
Just then, the doorbell rings, and it's Iris and Monroe. And Iris is wearing Monroe's hat.
Yeah,
Take the
exactly.
damn hat off.
The helmet.
It's
Well,
gonna
you're
make-
not used to the mic being at that.
I'm not used to wear. I usually don't wear the hat
Oh.
either when we do the podcast.
GMR Hatcast.
It's a hat cast this week, kids. So the doorbell rings. It's Iris and Monroe, and Iris is wearing Monroe's motorcycle helmet.
The chiropractor hates the song that the doorbell makes.
And they must have raced, what did you say it was, 250 miles?
Something like that, yeah.
On the back of Monroe's motorcycle, which is insane.
And they conveniently got there like a minute after. And they were all clean and no bugs in their face or anything.
Iris looked pretty shaken up. She was pretty shaken up. Shooken. What does that even mean? Anyway, she's wearing Monroe's motorcycle helmet. They drove a long way. And I'm imagining Monroe's like cutting through traffic because apparently traffic was real bad that night. And then they get married. And Iris is kind of a witch one more time, right before the end when she's nice. They always like to end it where she's nice all of a sudden.
Well, she
I've
must
been
have
awful.
really wanted to go there. So.
I've been awful this entire time, but now I'll just be nice.
Yeah, to go through all that trouble on that motorcycle, she must have really wanted to be at that wedding. The interloper this week, not really Iris. We didn't really have an interloper. Jackie and Sarah are more responsible for the path of the story this week because they're the ones who tried to plan the wedding and ended up with 65 people, which then led to, our guest stars were the Justice of the Peace and the chiropractor. Like we mentioned before, this season doesn't write the guest stars' names in the end credits. We determined Carl because she said, "Carl, start the music."
Vinyl. It was vinyl.
The Justice of the Peace may have had a name, didn't re-examine the scene close enough. And I know what you're saying. That's your job to do that. I know. We'll do better in the future. Cosmic Cow, we did see the drawing board. We saw the puppet. And there was that sweater with all the Saturns on it that you said reminded you of Cosmic Cow.
It was a very cosmic sweater that Sarah was wearing, yes.
This is episode 306, but it's production number 310. This one takes place in the storyline 3 weeks after last week's episode. And next week, we jump all the way back to 304. So they're all over the place with this. Henry Sweaters. It was a triple. University of Hartford. That one was very distinguishable and readable in the beginning. Indiana University. Both of those in Act 1, right?
I think
Nebraska.
they were all three in Act 1, weren't they?
Wow.
Maybe not, because I mixed up Act 1 and Act 2.
Monroe wearing stripes? Yes, but multiple stripes, as you pointed out. There was a pointing flurry at the end of Act 1, and there was also several other points. I gave it a ground total of 6 points throughout the episode. Not record-breaking, but it is still up there pretty high. We almost had a one-sided phone conversation, but Henry didn't quite pick up the phone.
He never dialed.
Nope. So that does not count. Monroe's motorcycle. Well, Iris was on Monroe's motorcycle and had the helmet. No mention of Balabans this week, but we did have Muriel's photography mentioned without being mentioned because the dark room was used. And there was that great dark room gag. Andrew was in the show. Let me see.
Not the plastic Andrew either.
Yeah.
The real Andrew.
The real Andrew. One of the two. Andrew will be portrayed by Jason Robert Wills and Eric Michael Wills for a couple more episodes, and then they do a baby switch on us.
Oh, man.
For another set of twins. Weird. Well, it's a whole other Full House plot that I'm going to get into here in a few weeks. It's just something to keep you intrigued. And they start using Andrew more in the future, too, as this very oddball Thanksgiving episode coming up. The intro, very interesting this week. We had Monroe in the chair, of course. But special guest star Audrey Meadows added to the intro this week. That's the first time. Right?
I think so.
I think it is, yeah. I watched so many of these in a row, I start to lose track. Yeah, it was just Monroe in the chair before that this season, I believe. Subversive. Well, we had the gay marriage jokes. We had the 5-note music cue.
A 5er.
On a scale of 1 to 5, I give this a 3, leaning towards a 4. Bizarre, odd happenings. On-screen kissing becoming more common. It happened twice in this episode. Garfield was hidden in one of the scenes, which I just noticed this time around. We don't see Garfield again until season 6. Everyone in one scene. You can't fit 65 people into this apartment, but you can fit the whole cast into one scene, except for Andrew, as you pointed out.
Oh, he's we could have fit him in there.
They could have.
Well, actually, at the end, at the wedding scene, they were all there.
They are all there again in that
With the
scene with
baby.
even more characters.
I don't think it was the real baby because the baby was just in a basket and never did anything.
It's still the equivalent of the
The whole-
character in the scene. And we had the Justice of the Peace and the chiropractor. So everybody who was in the episode is all on that last scene. I didn't even think of that. What did we learn this week? Muriel loves balloons. That's what we learned.
Yeah?
And, you know, I thought Henry was going to get married wearing a college sweater there for a second. Because he was wearing so many of them this week. I thought it was leaning towards that. Next time. During a photo shoot, Andrew goes missing.
Oh, jeez.
On, who was that baby I saw you with? Question mark.
He stole my baby.